There's a flip side to the big price spike earning opportunities of the wholesale market, which a lot of people don't think about, which is ordinary electricity retailers plans that don't have wholesale pricing passed on to the customer. They have to wear the cost of protecting you from those huge price spikes. Like I earned over $60 in a day last week from massive spikes. How does that work, Evan?
Yeah, I mean, and that was one of the first things that I didn't appreciate before until I moved into the energy industry, was that the job of the energy retailer is to actually protect most of our customers from that price volatility. You're right that price, the wholesale price, can go from very negative to $20 a kilowatt hour, and our job is, most customers want just certainty. How much am I going to pay? Can you imagine going and buying a coffee one day and it costs you $3, and then you have to buy a coffee the next day and it costs you $30? You'd be like, what? Or if you're trying to run your business and you've got no idea what you're going to have to pay for electricity. So the job of the retailer is to actually provide certainty, and that's a huge part of our business, is what we call, that risk management, to try and make sure that our customers have certainty about what price they're going to pay, which is, I think, underappreciated, the role of the retailer.
Please contribute. It really helps my independent, honest journalism for you.
Hundreds of thousands of Australians are signing up for cheaper home batteries and solar combined, on top of all the millions of Australians that already have solar across Australia already. Now, electricity plans have to change to meet their needs. There's traditional electricity plans, which are flat rate. Those are slowly getting phased out. There's new innovative options like GloBird, like ZEROHERO, which we're going to talk about today, and some other options. And there's sort of more completely market-driven ones like Amber Electric, which I've discussed in the past. Which ones are suitable for different people? Well, actually, they're all suitable for different people, because not everyone is on the same step of the journey. Some people are very risk averse. Some people want to be really risky. Some people don't have a very big battery and they don't want to worry about spikes. Some people want to look forward to big price spikes because they might want to profit for them. Now, Evan here is going to explain what GlowBird offers, because they offer an interesting concept different from most other electricity companies, which is everything from your standard, vanilla, plain, easy to understand electricity bill, all the way to their new Wholesave plan, which offers more risk but more reward.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Nirav. I don't think I could have summed it up better than you have just there.
Comparing with competitors, what's your response time like for phone requests and email requests? Because it's not a secret, Amber Electric is struggling with those. How is GlowBird doing? Because that's important for a lot of people. They want to be able to get reliable bills and such. And I'm sure Amber is definitely working on that. Having such huge growth means they're having a lot of trouble. How are you going to handle that if you get a sudden surge of signups to ZEROHERO? And
that's not a simple one-line answer that I can give you. I mean, I guess I can start from when I started at GlowBird about 5 years ago, and then the founders who are still very active in the business, they said, we've got two core principles. It's technology, which we've spoken about, but customer service. So those two are kind of our core principles that we kind of build everything on. So customer service is definitely hugely important to us. If you look at our Google reviews are very high. I think we're about 4.8 at the moment. So we do pride ourselves in our customer service. So I don't have at hand the average wait time that we've got right now, but we're always looking at what we want to do. Like I talked about having different products for different people. What we want to do is have different customer service channels for different people. So what we're looking at, when we do, we used to have we still do have our kind of online web, My Account, where you can do a lot of self-service functions. But then we found a lot of people actually prefer an app, like an actual native app. So then it's like, okay, well, let's build that native app and let's build a lot of those self-service functions in there. And we definitely see, there's a lot of people that just don't want to call a call center, right? It's like, can you just give me something I can do it myself? I don't want to call, even if there's no wait time, even if you've got a person that picks up, people just don't want to speak to somebody. It's like, let me just do it myself. Let's give them the tools that they can be able to do that. But there's definitely a big cohort of people that go, this is all too hard. Let me speak to somebody because I need some help. And then, so we want to offer that as well, right? And so that is our call center. We're in they're literally behind me here. We're local. We're in Ringwood, and all our call center is here. And we just trying to find that right balance. Obviously we want to have as short wait times as possible, but if we overstaff, then that's an extra cost that we can't pass on to our customers. So we're constantly balancing that. We often think about that in terms of our kind of like responsible customer growth. So we have got, constant kind of customer growth, which is great. But, when we do see spikes in customer growth, then we really try and get, recruit more people to help. But, I think at the moment, our customer service is very good.
Okay, that's pretty good. Now, another possibly slightly tricky question. Getting new customers is great, but what about retention?
Yeah.
A problem or issue, whatever you want to call it, I've seen across the whole electricity industry is short-term kind of offers and not everyone getting the same kind of offer. What I think might help, obviously it would require like calculations in the background to be rejigged a fair bit. And I think it would reduce a lot of the complaints. And I'm not saying this is just about GlowBird. This is about pretty much every single electricity company.
The industry. Yeah, that's right.
It's the whole industry that people really, really hate, that they sign up and then 18 months later, their neighbor on the same meter, on the same street, on the same tariff signs up and they get a different price. I really think that both in terms of fairness and in terms of making customer service teams' life a lot happier, it would be nice if everyone in the electricity industry just said, this is our best offer. And I know the government makes electricity companies put a little box at the top of bills saying, you're not on our best offer.
Yep.
Do you want to have a look at it? But honestly, people are pretty lazy. They're very sort of, on one hand, quick to complain about electricity companies and say that they're horrible, but like they won't notice that little box because they probably don't pay attention that much. Do you think there's an easier way? Or can you try and lobby for regulators to say, if customer A is on a plan that's old and we have plan B that's cheaper in every single way, can we have permission to switch them to the cheaper in every single way plan and just tell them? And then they'll be like pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is like, there is so much to go into there, I guess. It's a really difficult question to ask because without, like, there is, like you said, there's a lot of calculations in the background, just the way the energy industry works. I guess the first thing that I'll just say is that if you look at what the regulator publishes, energy retailers make 3% margin. That's the margin that we make, that we're working with, right? So it's very, very slim margins. That's just setting the tone, I guess, is that just, a lot of people I didn't understand that before I moved into energy, is that the energy retailers actually operate on a extremely small margin. That's across the board.
So who makes all the money then? That's actually a really good point to point out to people, because I think people are imagining you, Evan, driving around Ringwood in one of your fleet of Porsche Taycans, and you're probably not.
No, I can guarantee I'm not.
So from like just making it super simple for people, if the amount of money paid in your electricity bill was a pie, like the electricity grid people, the people who owns the poles and wires get a big chunk.
That's
the
right.
People who transmit the electricity from out there in rural Victoria or New South Wales or Queensland get a big chunk.
The generators.
There's a small slice for things like a green energy kind of cost to cover like things like feed-in tariffs and other stuff.
Yep.
What else is there?
I mean, they're the biggest ones you've already covered. So, I think something like, and it's hard to give like an exact number because each different region is different. But basically speaking, it's somewhere around 45% is going to be the network costs. So that's just the network costs that you're talking about. I think the wholesale cost, which is essentially the generation, the cost to produce the energy. So the cost to produce the energy is somewhere between, it's around 30 something percent, right? So they're the two biggest factors that go into the bill, is the cost, which makes sense, the cost to generate the power and the cost to get it to your house. Makes sense, right? They're the two biggest costs. You're right. There's a bunch of other ancillary costs that make up the smaller percentage of the pie. What we call environmental costs. I think that's around 10%. On average. There's just what we call market fees. So there's what it costs to run the AMO, the Australian Energy Market Operator. They've got obviously costs to manage the market. But left is like 3% for the retail margin. So to answer to your question, first, where you were talking about different plans, different prices. And I thought this was an interesting analogy that somebody once told me. And it's not exactly right, but I think it kind of explains things a little bit more. If you're looking to book an aeroplane ticket, for example, and the aeroplane is got one seat left over or two seats left over, and they're going to fly anyway, and they can sell that seat cheaper, right? So they can sell that much cheaper than everybody else. But if they had to offer that same price to everybody on the flight, they couldn't fly the plane. People think about energy that it's all the same. So that's kind of just one way of thinking about it a little bit differently. But again, without getting into all the details, the other thing is that we don't want to increase the prices on our customers. Like I talked about, and that's 100% true, is that, customer service and technology are our two pillars. So, if we could never send a price increase to our customers, that would be our preference. But the reality is, like I talked about the cost stack, those costs, the reality is, as we move to which a lot of people don't want to talk about, but the cost of generation and transmission will go up while we go through this transition. That cost gets passed to us, and then we need to pass that on to customers. That's the bottom line. Now, it depends on when you sign up to GlowBird. So we really only allowed to reprice our customers, send them a price change once a year. So, and so it depends on where a customer signs up, relative to the 1st of July. If they sign up, 2 weeks before, we don't want to have to then send them a price change. So, we've got a buffer that we say, well, only if you've been with us for a period of time, but then the next window for us so we're going to incur a whole bunch of extra costs because those network and costs will go up, but then we can't then reprice that customer until the following July. So that's the balancing game that we need to play. We want to keep that price as low as possible for our customers, but it is a challenge.
Fair enough. Yeah. It's
I'm not sure if that answers your question, really.
Yeah, I guess it's that old kind of thing where people see the duck floating on the surface of the water, but they don't see how hard it's paddling underneath. Sometimes doesn't have to paddle that hard, and sometimes has to paddle really, really hard.
I can tell you from our technology team to our customer service team, everybody's paddling as hard as they can. That much I know.
Yeah, but it is a good point to say that, like, the electricity retailers can only make 3%. So yeah, that's for everyone. I guess the big, what's called gentailers, and viewers may or may not be knowledgeable about that. Gentailers are electricity retailers like AGL and Origin that both generate and sell electricity. They've got a bit of an advantage over companies like yours that are just selling it, because the gentailers can basically almost sell it to themselves.
Yep, that's right. And so, we're looking, as part of our longer term strategy, it's looking at how much sort of generation should we get into. But even that generation now looks very different. So, it's the same thing at the micro level at an individual household. You've gone from, energy consumers to, what they call prosumers now, but they're not just, they're producing and consuming at the, not just solar, but with the batteries. So each individual household is now essentially a generator, right? A small generator. And so when they participate in things like ZEROHERO, and then they can feed back into the grid to, for those critical events, or even at the peak hours, they're actually part of that generation mix now, right? So yeah, the old, what we call gentailers, where they would maybe own a coal power plant and also sell energy retail, that model is definitely changing a lot. And the huge uptake of CER, or consumer energy resources, is helping to change that mix.
Yeah, and everyone with solar and batteries is helping to weaken the power of those giant gentailers, and it's not all advantages for them, because having to deal with trying to shut down huge old coal power plants and then remediate the land and stuff, that's got costs of its own.
We talked about all the people that have installed batteries, but there's a lot of people that just haven't installed batteries yet, or that they haven't, they might be thinking about it, but they haven't done it yet. And a lot of people just want, especially those types of people, just want to turn on the light switch and not have to think about how much it's going to cost. And that's those vanilla products that we've got. We call it GlowSave, but it really is either a flat or a simple peak and off-peak style plan. And we've got a lot of customers on that. But exactly like you said, as we're seeing more and more take up of batteries, we want to offer different plans for people that are on that journey at a different level. So yeah, I think we saw with the announcement of the solar sharer plan, we've had our we called it our free lunch product, and we've had that actually in the market for something like, I think, 5 years was when we first launched free lunch. So that was, we were actually offering the free energy in the middle of the day, and that was for 2 hours. We found that other retailers then sort of copied us and extended it. So they went from, we had the 2 hours, they went for 3 hours. And then with the announcement of the solar sharer offer from the government, who was going to, sort of mandate a standing offer for 3 hours, we said, let's go one better and do what we call 4 for free. So that's kind of like that next level in what we call how engaged in your energy, or how much can you shift. And that might be for people that can't install a battery for whatever reason, but still want to participate in the transition and maybe move some of their loads. So that's just a simple sort of load shifting kind of plan. And then our next one, which is what we call ZEROHERO, which is, to be honest, is my personal favorite plan, and I can talk about that in a little bit more. And then at the other end of the spectrum, is what we call Wholesave, which is that wholesale linked product, with a subscription fee. So that's kind of like what we talk about, the spectrum of different products. Yeah.
Yeah. And I noticed that you're trying to make sure your customer service team doesn't get swamped. The new Wholesave plan has a long list of customers who are excluded from applying because you think it's probably not the right fit for them. So it says no retirees, no pensioners. Residential users, it says, must be a sophisticated investor. Now, I've only ever seen that in ads for like big financial funds. How do you guarantee a customer fits all of those rules?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically for most of the rules, we ask them to self-report, that they fit that rule. And really it is, what we don't want to do is like bait people into this wholesale linked product, not knowing what they're getting themselves in for, right? We want to make sure they understand it. So if, we've done our best and we'll continue to improve our education piece when people are signing up. We don't want people to sign up to this plan not knowing what they're getting themselves in for on that Wholesave plan. And so, that's why we've got a few restrictions in there. Yeah. So that it'll be interesting to see who takes it up. We haven't had really too many people say, I want to get in, but I can't because of these restrictions so far.
Fair enough. There's no automatic trading on that plan at the moment, is there? So at the moment, it's just totally raw wholesale pricing. And the only sort of hedging or price protection, I guess, is you can buy these kind of caps. And then it depends, if you have a lot of solar and obviously a big battery, you can ride out some of the high prices.
Yeah. So Wholesave is, it's an evolving product. What we're trying to do is, and I guess just a bit of background on GlowBird, maybe it'll help set some context, is we really feel like a technology company that does energy retail rather than an energy retailer first. A third of our workforce is actually technology. So that's my team that looks after the technology. And, we've built our own billing system internally, which is kind of unheard of, I think, for a lot of retailers. And that enables us to do some of these innovative products. And the reason I mention that is because, you said we haven't got sort of that automated control. That's actually coming very soon. We literally do weekly releases of our software. That might be our online sign up or our mobile app or our internal CRM. We do weekly releases. So we do move quite quickly. And our GlowBird app is, we definitely have that on the roadmap, and it shouldn't be far away, where we're going to offer some level of control for Wholesave. But we want to listen to what customers want out of that. Do we have an algorithm that's kind of a little bit opaque to them? Or do we have something a little bit simpler where, they can just set a simple schedule with some maybe wholesale price overrides? So, generally speaking, the wholesale price is cheap in the middle of the day, expensive at night. There's obviously exceptions to that, but, does that give the customers more transparency on what's happening? So they're the kind of, we want, as we get the feedback from customers on that Wholesave product, we'll iterate quickly and sort of build those tools into the app.
Okay, that's intriguing, because I used to be a programmer for a while, long ago. Are you saying something like a page that has if this, then that, kind of with a bit more sort of detail to it? Like if the price is above 10 cents for selling in the evening, or 15 or 20 or whatever the person sets, then sell this 5-minute period.
Correct.
And then for the next 5-minute period, check again. Is it still good? Sell. If it's not, don't sell.
Yeah, exactly right. I think something like that is simple for customers. I think when you say, well, if then, that starts to get into programming, and then you kind of go, okay, we need to make the tools that people understand. So it's trying to translate that kind of logic into screens and information that our end users can use.
So maybe something like
thresholds,
just an easy kind of quiz, perhaps, like what price
do you want to sell at?
Below this number, which price are you not willing to sell at? And above this number, what price are you not willing to buy at? That kind of thing.
Yep. And then we get feedback. So people might say, oh yeah, but I want to get more sophisticated and say, but only if my battery state of charge is below X or under X. So you can start to build up. Do we want to give people the tools to sort of build up their own algorithms, rather than us just saying, oh, here's the algorithm that we think is best for you. So that's one approach that we're looking at. But really, the overall theme is let's get feedback from customers and see what they want, and then try that out and see what they think. Yeah.
Okay.
That's for Wholesave. So that's for Wholesave. But like I said,
that's for Wholesave.
That is quite a complex product. And, I think there's definitely a demographic. There's definitely some, super energy nerds that love that sort of thing and want those sort of tools. That's why I said my favorite product is ZEROHERO, is that it sort of simplifies all that, but still gets a lot of value. You've invested a lot in your battery and solar system. And so how can I get the value without having to worry about, what the wholesale price is?
Yeah.
That's why I feel like ZEROHERO is my favorite product at the moment anyway. We'll see what happens.
The way I describe ZEROHERO to people is there's no huge risks and rewards in it, but you can probably make your daily grid connection feedback. If you export in the evening, you can make $1 or $2 there. Potentially, there are sort of small spike payments. But one nice thing with ZEROHERO is you have the choice of letting GlowBird having control over your battery to get those little spike payments. I think it's $1 per kilowatt hour.
Yep, when there's
usually high pricing.
We call it a critical event, but it's a spike payment. Yeah, that's right.
But also because a lot of people getting batteries don't want to give control to someone else. They want to have control themselves. You do not have to tie your battery control to GlowBird. You can have 80 to 90% of the benefit of ZEROHERO while still being able to poke the app and do exactly what you want.
Yeah,
is that a fair description?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think what ZEROHERO was really born probably as an evolution from, like I talked about the free lunch product that we've had in the market for a while. And that was really, if you think about the old classic time of use plans, it's really, of having an off peak and a peak. That peak, when most people are using it, was really kind of like a stick approach. If you talk about the carrot or the stick, it's really a stick approach. Hey, you're going to have to pay a lot more in the evening. And so free lunch or the solar share offer, those equivalent for free energy in the middle of the day, was more of the carrot approach. Hey, if you move, if you can use energy here, it's for free, which people responded to quite well. And ZEROHERO is really an evolution of that kind of carrot approach. Instead of saying, well, just use energy for free in the middle of the day, we're actually going to give you a carrot. We're going to pay you for not using energy when it's in the peak hours. So that's kind of that ZEROHERO payment in the peak hour. And yeah, you're right. Customers can benefit from that simply by sort of scheduling their battery in the way that they want to. So say charge their battery in the middle of the day for free, and then get paid to discharge it at night time. But then also, they can give, we've got our GlowBird app. So if they give us, and when I say give us control, we're not really controlling it. We're helping the customer control it. So the customer will still go in and say, okay, I want to set this schedule. But instead of having to go through their manufacturer app, they can go through the GlowBird app and set the schedule really easily to take advantage of the ZEROHERO perks.
Yeah. Now, one most common question I get from viewers about ZEROHERO is the dollar daily payment for using less than 0.03 kilowatt hours per hour from the grid between 6 to 8 o'clock. Now, I think you explained to me prior to recording, this is not like literal. It's more a total of 0.06 kilowatt hours total for the 2 hours. And it depends on the meter reading, the electricity meter that people have in their power board.
Correct.
Not what the app the battery manufacturer says or the solar inverter says. The source of truth is the
Billing meter.
electricity company, grid company's meter out in the side of your house.
Yeah, no, and you've covered a few things there, and so let me try and talk about a couple of them. So yeah, that ZEROHERO, again, so when I talked about that ZEROHERO window and paying people for not using energy at that time, we found in a lot of our early pilots, even if you set your battery or your inverter to sort of self-consumption mode, there is a little bit of time that it takes and for it to balance out. So it does trickle a little bit in from the grid, and that's kind of why we have that little tolerance there. So our terms and conditions, basically, exactly like you say, we do that at a per hour, or in our terms and conditions, it's 0.03 kilowatt hours per hour. How we actually calculate that at the moment, at least, is over the whole 2 hour period. So if you go a little bit above and then below in those 2 hours, as long as it averages out to 0.03 over the 2, then you'll still get that ZEROHERO bonus for that day. So it is, the source of truth is that billing meter. So your electricity meter, not the inverter. The source of truth is that meter data that we look at.
Sure. And because people have different brands of meters and how often they report back might have a bit of a lag sometimes, will most customers know if they got that ZEROHERO dollar payment for 6 to 8 p.m. by breakfast time the next day, or does it wait till a lot later?
No, it should be the next day. So behind the scenes, how we get the meter data is usually, it's not 100%. There's a lot of dependencies, downstream dependencies that we don't always have control of. But a large majority of the time, we'll have that smart meter data for customers the next day. And then what we're looking at is how can we best display that kind of information to customers in our GlowBird app. How can we show those that they did reach it, or if they didn't reach it, why not? And things like, well, did they get a streak? How many days in a row did they get there? All the things we're kind of looking at. The customers want to see that. Hey, listen, I was able to get the ZEROHERO bonus 7 days in a row. Is that something people want to see? They're the kind of things we're looking at implementing in our app.
Okay, that's awesome. And it's good to hear you'll have some more controls coming up soon. That'll be interesting to have a look at. Speaking of batteries, though, people are also asking me all the time, do you have a list on your website somewhere of battery brands and models that you're currently working to get on board so people don't have to keep asking?
Yeah, so we do. We've got a current list. I think it's about 10. I don't have them at hand right now, but we've got 10 major ones. Maybe one that's major that we don't have, which is the Tesla one. But like you said earlier, is regardless of what battery you have, you can still take advantage of ZEROHERO. You just need to schedule it yourself in that manufacturer app rather than using our GlowBird app. So, but in terms of the official list of ones that we can help you control, so we can bind and control, we've got 10. I think about 10 at the moment. Major brands, and then we're looking at, again, demand. What are customers asking for? If there's enough demand there, we'll do the work to integrate with that as well.
Okay, so yeah, if you want your battery battery brand to be integrated, then give Evan's team an email, and I guess they keep a
we do, we look at
tally table going of what's going to be more popular. I only asked about that feature because some manufacturer apps for batteries don't allow things like manual discharging yet.
Yes. And that's exactly right. And that's why we found a lot of people would prefer, and that's the message that we're trying to get across when you give GlowBird, when you bind your battery to GlowBird, and it is kind of called, I think the word VPP or virtual power plant kind of gets a bit of a dirty name sometimes. And technically ZEROHERO, when you bind your battery, it is a virtual power plant, and that has a bunch of benefits. There's different rebates that are available because it is a VPP. But at the end of the day, you're still using GlowBird's app to control and say, well, how do I want my battery to behave? And that's, what we're really about is trying to give full transparency. We're not trying to hide anything here.
Okay, fair enough. Now, recently, some of your plans removed solar feed-in credits for most of the day, apart from evenings. Will this kind of be backlisted to existing customers at their next sort of plan update, or are they locked into whatever they signed up for at least a few months?
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at the industry, I mean, we've spoken about the free lunch, our 4 for free, and even the government saying that the solar share offer. It's basically the market saying that the demand, But for solar in the middle of the day is kind of very low, and that's why that price is very low, and that's why that feed-in tariff for, and most retailers I think are doing the same thing, is basically saying that it's that's zero in the middle of the day. Now, where it depends on which customers, what plan our customers are on, what that feed-in tariff will be. But for most customers, I think that's the industry is heading towards. Your feed-in is going to be worth nothing in the middle of the day, and that's why we're seeing a big take-up of batteries, because people are saying, well, now I can, instead of getting nothing for it, I can top up my battery.
Yeah, I think it's part of the issue is sales. People were sold by solar installers and some electricity companies that they would, if the electricity company was selling the solar, that, you're getting 10, 15, 20 cents per kilowatt hour feed-in tariff. You won't have to think about it. You won't have to change your behavior at all. You won't have to install any more electric things in your house. You can just kind of have the kind of lazy approach of just export everything and get paid for it. And that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's succeeded, because the reason you can offer things like ZEROHERO and people can import for almost nothing or nothing in the middle of the day is because there's so much supply of electricity.
Exactly.
You can't have it both ways.
Correct.
You can't have, I want to be able to feed in lots of electricity to the grid and get paid for it all day, even when the actual wholesale price of electricity is close to nothing.
Correct.
But I also want to be able to get free stuff. You get one or the other.
Yeah, that's right. And you summed it up perfectly. There is such an abundance. Over the last few years, we've seen, you're right, the early adopters, and I think, that was the right signal. Early adopters had this, premium feed-in tariff. I think it was up to some, had 60 cents at one stage, right, for their feed-in for those really early adopters. But that's just, as more and more solar has taken off, it really is just a supply and demand equation. There's a lot more supply and there's a lot less demand, so that's why that cost has gone down to zero usually in the middle of the day.
Okay. Now, for most of the last 10 years, kind of GlowBird has been a traditional electricity reseller. And then you added some more different plans like the free lunch and then the ZEROHERO and the Wholesave. Some of these kind of an experiment, like will Wholesave stay or go? I guess that depends on how many people sign up for it.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, and when you say GlowBird's been a traditional energy retailer, like I said earlier, I think we really are a technology company. I think the first 5 years was really about building that foundation layer, investing in our own billing system. So, and all that foundation work has enabled us then to be able to say, okay, now, depending on which way the market goes, what sort of products do we want to be able to release and be able to release those products reasonably quickly. So I would say, we haven't always been a traditional energy retailer. I would say it might seem that way on the outside. But we've, the first, 5 years has really been about, getting that groundwork in place, building up our operational efficiencies, being able to run really lean so that then we can pass those kind of savings on to customers. But that's kind of all been internal, like I said, building our own billing systems. And now it's about trying to expose, those new types of products. And does Wholesave take off? We don't know. What we're trying to do is say, well, here's our range of products, maybe our core 4 that people can pick from. And then if the market wants something new, let's listen to it or try new products and see what the market actually wants.
It's like a buffet breakfast, I guess. You'll have to see what people wake up and choose over time and whether their preferences change.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's pretty good. Have you ever considered even more complicated than your Wholesave plan, something like there's a company called, I think it's called Plico in WA, and they take all their battery customers together in the VPP and they're bidding together or sort of earning opportunity.
And that really is the typical kind of what the, or maybe, I don't know if the word is legacy VPP. So that kind of concept of where, hey, give us a portion of your battery and we will give you, some sort of payment. But what we're going to do with your battery is none of your concern. Don't worry. We're going to do something with it. And so that is kind of really the old VPP model, which, and I definitely think it's got its place. So that's where we're looking at, or do we have another in our product stack? Do we have another one that is less simple, I guess, than ZEROHERO, where it's just say, hey, if you've got a 20 kilowatt hour battery, if you give us 10 to do as we please, we'll give you some payback. And then you don't necessarily need to know what we're doing with that 10. We're going to aggregate that together and do some stuff to try and generate some value, and then split that value up. So that model is kind of more the classic VPP, which I think has its place. And there's other retailers that are doing that model at the moment, but it is a little bit less transparent, I think. And I think there's, initial feedback. And that, again, the industry might change as people get familiar with Zero Hero. They might say, oh, actually, I don't mind. You can do whatever you want with that 10 kilowatt hours. I've got 20. I only need 10 I want for backup maybe. So do with the 10 what you want. That might be where the industry goes. But I think at the moment, that kind of older style VPP had a little bit, some of the feedback was they don't like the lack of transparency. Yes, they're getting value, and it might be really good value, but there's probably that lack of transparency. So,
yeah, there's an inherent lack of trust of big electricity companies.
Correct. Yeah. So if you've already got low trust, and then you're not really giving that transparency, but at the end of the day, it was transparent. We said, these other VPPs are sort of saying, no, well, we're transparent in what we're doing. We're going to take 10 and we're going to give you X. That is kind of transparent, but I think people agree to it and then go, oh, but wait a minute, what's happening with my battery? I don't know. It's like, yeah, well, you agreed that you didn't want to know for a particular price. So yeah. But
Okay.
that is another product that we could look at doing. At the moment, that's not on our plan. I think that Zero Hero kind of fits nicely in that sweet spot of giving value, giving transparency, still letting customers have control. So that's I think is the benefit.
I think that could be something that other companies try and copy you. And we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see, because it has some good benefits for battery and solar people without big risks, no big rewards either. But then it's kind of like no surprises.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we wanted.
Yeah.
No surprises, predictability. Yep.
Thanks for liking, subscribing, and sharing my videos. It really helps me make more videos like this for you. And have a look at the suggested videos up above. I'm pretty sure you'll like those as well. Thanks, and see you later.